Loaded show ahead here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. We're talking about Sam Howell and the possibility of what's ahead for Sam Howell. Could he be in a quarterback competition? What's his role look like with the Seattle Seahawks? We'll explain in just a matter of moments. Also, Johnathan Hankins. Could he be coming to the Seahawks and add some depth to the defensive line? We got some rumors to get to on Hankins coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do that, though, folks, we want to show some love to Sam Howell. With this being St. Patrick's Day weekend, let's get the luck of the Irish on Sam Howell's side. If you want to see him do well with your Seattle Seahawks, like today's video. Every like helps out. Who knows? Maybe some of Sam Howell's family members or friends are watching today's show, and we want to make sure that our support is heard loud and clear for the new Seahawks quarterback. Like the video, and we'll get going here on Seahawks Today. Sam Howell was traded to the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday, and now the question becomes, what is next for Sam Howell? What does his role look like on the Seahawks offense? And one question that is on a lot of people's minds is this a quarterback competition between him and Geno Smith? If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, when talking about Geno Smith, John Schneider said that Geno was the Seahawks starting quarterback until he wasn't. And Mike Macdonald hasn't really said a ton about Geno Smith either. So where do things stand now that Sam Howell is part of the equation? John Schneider did an interview with Seattle Sports Radio and said the following about the situation. We're happy to get him in the mix. Geno's the guy. Sam will be backing him up. So pretty straightforward from John Schneider. Geno is the guy, and Sam Howell is the number 2 quarterback for now. Now, I'll say this. This is clearly Geno's job to lose. I think the scenario that would have to happen for Sam Howell to be QB1 for Seattle is an injury to Geno Smith. If he gets banged up, then Sam Howell would obviously get an opportunity, and if he plays well enough, then he could hold on to that said job. I don't think that there's going to be anything where Sam Howell could outplay Geno in training camp or in the preseason and all of a sudden take over as the Seahawks starting quarterback here. You look at the numbers of what these two did in 2023. Completion percentage, very similar, edge to Geno. Yardage, edge to Sam Howell. Howell also had the edge in touchdown passes, but the big difference was turnovers, as Geno had 9 interceptions compared to Howell, who led the league in INTs with 21, and QB rating, a big advantage towards Geno Smith there. When you look at Sam Howell, what he's done in his 2 seasons in the National Football League, the former 5th-round pick out of North Carolina has a 5-13 record as a starting quarterback, including going 4-13 in 2023. Granted, the Washington Commanders were a bit of a mess, a dumpster fire of sorts, if you will. He ended up getting benched in Week 15 in favor of Jacoby Brissett, and now Howell is looking for a fresh start, a way to bounce back of some sorts and show his true value, his true worth of sorts there with the Seattle Seahawks. So for me, I look at Sam Howell and this situation here. You know that Geno's your guy, but with Sam Howell, you have a guy with starting experience that if there were a situation, let's say, where Geno does have that injury, if he gets hurt and misses a game, Sam Howell is more than capable of filling the void and winning you a game or two, which could be the difference in the Seahawks making or missing the playoffs when it's all said and done here. So for me, I agree with John Schneider. I hope that Geno still remains the starter, that he's the guy. But Sam Howell, I have confidence in that he'll be more than ready if the opportunity presents himself to fill in for Geno Smith. Which quarterback would you rather start Week 1, Geno Smith or Sam Howell? Type G for Geno. Type S for Sam Howell. It's our pinned comment today. Let us know what you think, which quarterback you would rather roll with for your Seattle Seahawks. Johnathan Hankins is a free agent available right now, and according to a new report, the Seahawks are very interested in potentially signing Hankins in free agency. So What does that all look like? Let's begin with this report from Brady Henderson of ESPN, who covers the Seattle Seahawks. He said the following: the Seahawks have more work to do at defensive tackle after re-signing Leonard Williams. One name to keep an eye on is Johnathan Hankins, an 11-year vet who played 350 snaps for Dallas last season. He was mostly an early down defender, but recorded 3 sacks. Seattle is interested. More from Henderson. He said, Hankins spent this past season and a half in Dallas, where new Seahawks defensive coordinator Aiden Dirty was his D-line coach. So there is some familiarity between Aiden Dirty and Johnathan Hankins there, and we've seen kind of a common theme of sorts that the Seahawks, whether it's been the coaching staff or players they've brought in, is going with what they know, going with guys they trust. When I look at Johnathan Hankins, he's not going to cost a whole lot of money, right? He wasn't making a ton in Dallas, and this would fill a need of sorts, right? We mentioned they need help on that defensive line. They need rotational players, and that's where Hankins could come in. It is worth noting, though, that a while back, he and Mitchell Renz, our hosts of the Raiders Report, did a little burger eating challenge, and Hankins did lose to Mitch, who's not a big guy himself, in this burger eating contest. So, although that might not affect his play on the football field, just a fascinating note of sorts that Johnathan Hankins, not the fastest eater by any means, as their own Mitchell Renz took him down. More on Johnathan Hankins in just a moment, but first, want to make sure you subscribe to your one-stop shop for all things Seattle Seahawks right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. We had an incredible first week of free agency on the channel as we were live not once, not twice, but 3 times, breaking down everything that was going on in free agency, the Sam Howell trade, and all of that. If the Seahawks make any more big moves, you better believe we will talk about it here on the channel as we'll potentially go live again if we need to. We'll break down all these signings as they're happening in real time. Lock us in. Subscribe now. We're getting very close to 51,000 subscribers on the channel. I believe we're a little less than 60 away now from reaching that next milestone. If you're a diehard Seahawks fan, you got to lock us in. You got to subscribe now to Seahawks Today. Doesn't cost you a thing. Absolutely 100% free. Subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. More on Johnathan Hankins. Hankins has been a journeyman of sorts. He's already played for the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Colts, and the Giants. A lot of experience as a veteran that he could bring to the table. 152 career games played with 134 starts. And the thing to watch for with Hankins, he's effective two-gapping in the zero technique as a nose tackle for a 3-4 defense. The Seahawks plan to run a 3-4 under Mike Macdonald, the same scheme he was coordinator for with the Baltimore Ravens. You look at the statistics, and Johnathan Hankins, to his credit, coming off the best season he's had in a while there with the Dallas Cowboys, is he had 3 sacks, which was more than the previous 3 seasons combined. Also with 2 pass breakups, 2 tackles for loss, and 27 tackles. The grades, according to PFF, aren't anything earth-shattering by the stretch of the imagination, but you're looking at, as we mentioned, a rotational piece. I can live with a guy like Johnathan Hankins having a defensive grade of 51.8. I know that some of you may say, well, that's alarming that his best grade as a defensive lineman is a coverage grade at 65.4. But, folks, the question I point to is, at this point, why not? If you're a Seahawks team that needs depth pieces, that can get a guy like Hankins at a relatively cheap price, why not at this juncture? To me, I think it makes sense for Seattle potentially to go this route without having to spend a whole lot of money here. I like the idea of bringing Johnathan Hankins to Seattle. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks sign Johnathan Hankins? Why for yes and for no? Why in the comment section, tell us what you think. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. If you enjoyed today's show, if you want to wish Sam Howell good luck in his first season with the Seattle Seahawks, do your part. Like the video, and we shall see you next time right here on Seattle Seahawks Today.